Hello students, I have shown in the class how if everything is normal about a user input and the input methods used in the program, then everything will go normal. But sometime if user misunderstood the directions or programmer didn't give clear directions or program statements were not written correctly, in Java you could get a fairly big problem on your hand, which is called input mismatch, and we're gonna demo that for you how that can happen. So let's go to Eclipse. So here we have this program where we define a scanner, and we're going to ask user to give us three things: age on the last birthday, which will be a whole number; the GPA, which could be a whole number or a fraction, doesn't really matter; and only the last name. Okay, so we prompt them for that through this line here, that enter age, whole number, GPA, and last name only. And then we have three statements: age, where we use the nextInt method because age is int type; then GPA, where we use the next double method because GPA is double type; and the last name, where we use the next method because last name is string type. Okay, so once the program starts, user will see this kind of dialog, and let's say user entered, let's say they thought that age could contain a dot or something. So let's say if age was 23, they can enter 23.0, and then GPA, let's say 3.4, and last name, let's say Jones. So you can see that there is a mismatch here because 23.0 is a double type and it's not an integer type. So if that happens and user presses the enter key, well, you'll see this nasty red message, says Java input mismatch exception. When you see this kind of message, just key in on the keywords. Keyword here is input mismatch, and it gives you the line number 11, and line 11 is right, this one. So what Java is telling you in this case, that it was expecting an integer for the age, but it got a floating point number. When that happens, because floating point number cannot be gotten by the nextInt method, doesn't have the intelligence to get the floating point number, instead of trying anything, Java just crashes your program with the input mismatch message or input mismatch exception or error. Okay. There are other ways in which this can happen. Let me just show you a couple of other ways where the same error can take place. So we will restart this program. It's a little slow. So this time, let's say age was entered as a whole number, but user were confused and said if their GPA is 4, they thought they can type the word 4, and of course last name Jones. So when that happens, this is the second example of input mismatch. This time it didn't take place because of 23. See, it tells you the input mismatch took place on line 12, and line 12 is this one here. So here it is saying that the word 4, which is a text, cannot be gotten by the method like next double, which is only empowered to take either an integer, and of course it will convert that to double type, or a number that has fraction in it. And same thing will happen if user entered in text here for 23 instead of a number 23. Okay, so these are some of the examples Now, more can happen if, for example, let's say you wrongly coded for GPA, which is double type, instead of next double, you made it next int. Okay. Now this will not be a compile error, because if user does enter an integer for GPA, nextInt method will get it, and it will transform it to a double type before storing GPA. So we'll show you a normal case where this will not cause a problem, and another case where it will. So let's try this input mismatch this time. So I'll enter the age, whole number, and GPA this time, if it's 4, I'll just enter 4. And of course we are not fooling with the name, so name is fine, Jones. And this time input was successful. The reason you don't see anything here, because I didn't print anything here, but the input mismatch red message is no longer there. And the reason it worked is that 4, there's a match between 4 and the nextInt method, both are integer type, and there's a match between 23 and the fact that nextInt method has been called here, and there's a match in Jones and the next method that has been called here. So this is not a problem. However, let's say I type 4.0, then we'll see a problem actually. So this time I enter the age 23. Now GPA could contain fraction, so user is perfectly within their right to type 4.0 and name Jones, and voila. Now you see that once again we have this input mismatch problem on line 12 over here, because here programmer coded nextInt method to take input for a double type. That's certainly wrong. Okay, that's a programmer error, because if you don't tell programmer that enter whole number only, they are empowered to enter floating point or whole number. So this time there is a mismatch between the type that was entered by the user correctly, because they were not told to enter a whole number, and the nextInt method for not that one, nextInt method for GPA, which should be able to contain whole number or double type. So use of nextInt method here is wrong actually. Should have been next double. So as you can see, sometimes there are mismatch problem due to user data entry, and sometimes there are mismatch problems due to wrong coding. Other mismatch problem, like let's say I put here next double, that's not a problem, because you will see that Eclipse will tell you that that's a compile error. Okay, if I put my mouse here, it'll say type mismatch, cannot convert double to int type. So what Eclipse is saying is that, hey, you are getting the data as double type and age is the integer type, and I cannot do the conversion from double to the int without you telling me to do the conversion. Okay, so that will be a compile error, so that's really usually not a problem. So we get rid of that. But this is not a compile error here. All right, but the correct thing to do would be the double. Okay, so that's part of the description of input mismatch problem that you can do in Java. You can get that in number of different ways. There's just not one way in which it can happen. It can happen in many different ways. More advanced ways will be shown later to avoid this input mismatch, which I call input mismatch gotcha. Right now we have to make sure that we code it correctly, we give user clear directions how to input data, and just hope for the best. Thank you for listening.